A mad clown killer begins to kill the entire city in search of the best victim, but at one point he stumbles upon the wrong enemy. The film begins immediately after the ending of the first one, with Art the Clown coming back to life in the morgue and slitting the medical examiner's throat. He then gouges out the examiner's eye to replace the one he lost, and seemingly takes the examiner's brain to replace his own damaged brain matter. Afterward, Art heads to a laundromat, where he finds a worker asleep in a chair. Art undresses and throws his outfit into the washing machine. At that moment, he sees a vision of a little clown girl named the Little Pale Girl, who curiously approaches him and starts playing with him. The worker suddenly wakes up and sees Art playing with thin air. Shortly after, Art leaves the laundromat, having slaughtered the worker by impaling his head with a mop handle. The film then jumps to almost a year later, as Halloween approaches once again. We see a teenage girl named Sienna making her own Halloween costume in her candle-decorated bedroom. The costume is of an angel warrior, complete with a pair of wings and a sword, a character created by her late father, a cartoonist who recently passed away from a brain tumor. During dinner with her family, Sienna tells her mother, Barbara, that her younger brother, Jonathan, is planning to dress as the infamous serial killer, Art the Clown. Barbara forbids him from doing so. After dinner, Sienna talks to her mother about Jonathan's state of mind and his fascination with serial killers. Meanwhile, upstairs, Jonathan is researching the previous year's killing incident involving Art the Clown. Later that night, Sienna has a dream where she's on a film set shooting a commercial for a clown cafe and a cereal owned by Art. He begins entertaining everyone by handing out candies. When it's Sienna's turn, Art gives her a box filled with soup containing a disgusting beating heart and worms. Art then takes out a submachine gun and kills all the other actors on set, burning the remaining guests with a flamethrower. When Sienna awakens, she finds her room on fire. She rushes out of the room and calls her mother Barbara. Barbara comes in with a fire extinguisher and later scolds Sienna for keeping the candle lit when she went to bed. After her mother leaves, Sienna walks up to her room and finds that the sword her father gave her is unharmed. Meanwhile, Art, the clown, and the little clown girl are watching a talk show interviewing Vicky, the sole survivor from the first movie, whose face is now horribly disfigured. And the next morning, the entire school is buzzing about Vicky's assault on the talk show host and how she maimed him with her bare hands right after the live interview. Sienna has a panic attack upon hearing what happened with Vicky, and she is comforted by her friends Brooke and Allie. Meanwhile, at his school, Jonathan catches two other kids messing with the body of a dead opossum. Later, Jonathan finds Art in the school hallway, playing with the same opossum carcass. This time, Jonathan can also see the little pale girl. Art then throws the opossum at Jonathan. Terrified, Jonathan runs until he comes across a teacher who blames him for bringing the dead opossum into the school and reports him to Barbara. After school, Sienna goes to a Halloween store to purchase a new pair of wings for Halloween night. There, she encounters Art the Clown. Although he unnerves her, he shows no interest in murdering her. After Sienna leaves, Art locks the entryway and mutilates and murders the store clerk, then uses the clerk's severed head as a Halloween decoration. A while later, Sienna returns home, where she learns that Jonathan is in trouble for the opossum incident. The siblings talk, and Jonathan confides that Art was the one who framed him. Though Sienna claims not to believe him, despite her own encounters with Art, she asks her brother why he's obsessed with the clown. Jonathan then reveals that he has their father's old sketchbook and shows it to Sienna. They see that their father sketched scenes from the first film, a picture of Art, and the warrior angel holding Art's severed head. Sienna initially refuses to accept that their father anticipated Art's arrival, but later tells their mother that she believes Jonathan's story and that he didn't bring the opossum body into the school. Sienna then takes a shower and puts on her angel warrior outfit. Though Barbara shows a little disappointment at how revealing the outfit is, she admits that it's well made and would have made their father proud. Sienna then goes to a club to meet Brooke and Allie. Meanwhile, in another part of town, Allie is giving out trick-or-treat candy while her parents are out. Art stops by and asks for some candy, promising to go away if she gives him some, which she does. Despite his promise, Art later breaks into the house and assaults Allie, brutally slicing her body, including cutting open her back and scalping her. When Allie's mother returns home, she finds Allie still barely alive and Art giggling over her skinned body. Art had beheaded the mother and is using her head as a bowl to hand out Halloween candy to trick-or-treaters. At the club, Sienna is introduced to Brooke's boyfriend. They get some drinks and dance, enjoying their time. Meanwhile, Barbara gets into a fight with Jonathan over the opossum incident and his obsession with Art the Clown. Out of anger, Barbara tears up their dad's sketchbook and slaps Jonathan after he calls her a name. Jonathan then runs out of the house, but not before seemingly messing up the family car by covering it with toilet paper, crushed pumpkins, eggs, and shaving cream. Seeing what Jonathan has done, Barbara gets furious and calls Sienna. Sienna tries to defend her brother and also warns him against drinking alcohol, which Sienna eventually does. Sienna then expresses her genuine love for her mother, which calms Barbara down. While out walking, Jonathan sees the little pale girl and, terrified, runs back home. Meanwhile, Barbara starts cleaning the mess from the car. As she wipes away some shaving cream, she is surprised by Art sitting inside the car. The clown shoots her in the face with a sawed-off shotgun, killing her instantly. When Jonathan arrives home, he finds Art feeding mashed potatoes to Barbara's body. Terrified, he tries to escape, but Art catches and drugs him to knock him out. Art then leaves the house with Jonathan and also takes Sienna's sword. Meanwhile, Sienna and Brooke are both drunk and enjoying the party. Brooke then tells Sienna that she slipped some Molly into Sienna's drink in hopes of helping her loosen up. As the women dance, Sienna sees the little pale girl in the crowd and has an anxiety attack. Brooke and her boyfriend drag Sienna out of the club and into his car. As they drive Sienna home, she gets a call from the little pale girl, imitating Jonathan. The girl claims that he's been caught at the deserted old carnival and needs her help to get home. The trio then arrives at the old carnival. Sienna tries to call Jonathan back, but there's no network, so she goes to find him. Meanwhile, Brooke tells her boyfriend that Sienna and Jonathan's father had a brain tumor, became insane and abusive, and eventually died in a fiery car crash. The pair then do drugs and make out in the car. In the meantime, the little pale girl texts Sienna from Jonathan's phone, telling her to find Jonathan in the haunted funhouse ride called the Terrifier. Brooke's boyfriend then goes outside to relieve himself and is assaulted by Art, who tears off his privates. Brooke somehow escapes with Art in close pursuit. She screams for help from Sienna, but Art chases her into the Terrifier fire funhouse and brutally beats, disfigures, and slaughters her with a bat to which he has attached sharp objects. Later, Sienna finds Brooke's body before she is confronted by Art. Jonathan, who has since regained consciousness, also shows up. Sienna tells him to run as Art beats her up. The siblings somehow manage to get away and are stalked by Art through the funhouse. Art inflicts a lot of harm on both of them, including whipping them until their backs bleed. They do their best to fight back, wounding him in the head and shooting him with his own sawed-off shotgun. However, Art never stays down for long, no matter what they do. Eventually, he manages to knock out Jonathan and then cuts Sienna with the sword. He tosses Sienna's body into a pit where she suddenly finds herself at the clown cafe from her dreams. There, Sienna is trapped in a water tank and eventually loses consciousness. Art then tosses the sword aside and approaches Jonathan. As Sienna is about to pass out, her sword starts glowing and heals her wounds. She regains consciousness, breaks out of the water tank, and escapes the clown cafe reality, arriving back at the Terrifier funhouse. She retrieves the sword that Art discarded and finds him eating her unconscious brother. She violently attacks, taking Art by surprise. In the end, Sienna decapitates the evil clown, as depicted in her father's sketchbook. The siblings, heavily injured and traumatized, but alive and victorious, are shocked when the little pale girl appears. She picks up Art's head and walks away, rather than attacking the siblings. The siblings then leave the Terrifier funhouse to get help. As the credits roll, a mid-credits scene shows Vicky still in the mental hospital as the orderlies celebrate Halloween. During the night, Vicky wakes up and starts bleeding profusely from her privates. She uses the blood to paint Vicky plus Art inside a heart on the wall. She then supernaturally becomes pregnant and within minutes gives birth to the decapitated head of Art. When one of the orderlies checks on her, they are shocked to see the scene. The head is clearly alive and grins as the orderly screams. And that's the end of our movie.